everyone. So this is the syllabus walkthrough video. Just like a traditional class, I want to go through the syllabus piece by piece so you know how you're being assessed and what it is that you'll be learning as a function of this course. So where I'm starting is the syllabus and structure section of Getting Started underneath your Blackboard course shell. Now, if you haven't already watched the Blackboard navigation video, please start there. But if you have, then you're in the right place. Okay. So under syllabus and schedule, the very first thing that you should see is the attached file, which lets you download the syllabus. It's a Word document, and we'll go through that in a little bit, but make sure that if you're following along with me that you click that and then download it so that you have access to it. Save it anywhere you'd like because we will be referring back to it quite frequently. All right, so in the course schedule, this is just copied and pasted from the syllabus. So in lieu of having to download and look at it all the time, sometimes it's really good to just have this section here. Now, you'll notice that these first pieces look exactly like what the learning units look like because, again, it's an orienting device to help us keep on track and know how many points are associated with given weeks. Here are the required text, and let me make this a little bit bigger so that you can see it right along with me. You've got two supplemental text, which is what I will call them, and one kind of primary traditional looking textbook. Now let me start with the primary traditional looking textbook. It's just called Educational Psychology. It's in the 13th edition. There is some version with an access card and a version without an access card. The access card is not required of you. However, it does have some really good features in there like extra study guide materials and extra videos that you can watch. In the event that those are interesting to you, feel free to get the access card, but know that it is not required of you, regardless of whatever textbook brokers or the bookstore says. Okay, here is the ISBN number though, and like I said, it's in the 13th edition. The cover looks like this, so it's got like trees on the front. And so this is the book around which we will structure the majority of the course. It's where you're going to get most of the terms that you're going to need for your assignments. It's where you're going to get kind of the bulk of the information that you would really need for the praxis in the event that that's something that you're studying for, and it will be the main source of information for the course itself. However, these other two books that I have here are also required because they're supplementary texts. They're really, really great textbooks in terms of being written to a general audience, but talking about the same kinds of materials in a little bit of an easier, more relatable way. Sometimes the book is really dry and fact-driven, which that's important to know those facts in order to do well. However, these are really good for application and for interest, and I find them like really cool and interesting and fun, and I hope you find them fun as well. So the first one is Make It Stick, and the second one is Why Don't Students Like School? Again, you're going to have these. They won't necessarily be required until a couple of weeks into the course, but they are really important texts that I want you to have. All right. So when we go back to the structure, and I'm just going to make this easier. I don't know if the same is true for you, but you can hide this left-hand panel. So as I'm looking at the course structure here, anytime I say Educational Psychology, Chapter 1 and 2, that's that core textbook by Anita Woolfolk. I have a hard time pronouncing her name. And then the assignments are guided around those two supplementary texts. So for instance, for the first one, you're just going to do those introductory chapters, and then afterwards, you're going to do assignment 2 is geared around Make It Stick, and assignment 3 is geared around Why Don't Students Like School? And these are really good books for you to have as you read as you go along, right? So I'm asking you to read 6 chapters in a week, but know in advance that you could start reading at any point in time that you feel comfortable. And actually, one of the key principles that I talked about in the last video is spacing out your time. These chapters are, again, a little easier to read than your textbook chapters because they're just kind of fun application, lots of pretty pictures and good ways for you to apply what you're learning in your everyday life, in your future careers, in a way to help perhaps your kids if you have children or nephews or nieces or any kind of young people that you want to help. They're really, really great. And for you as a student, also really, really great to know. But nevertheless, Make It Stick is associated with the first book I talked about, and then Why Don't Students Like School is the other one. Also know that according to the way that I've structured this course, and pretty much any course I teach, none of the chapters or the supplemental material is independent of each other. Everything is part of a bigger whole. And one of the great things about learning something that's like this is that we'll constantly be drawing connections within chapters, across chapters, to the supplemental texts and to your everyday life. And so because everything is so interconnected, this entire class is cumulative in that respect, in terms of the fundamental pieces. So for instance, in the first exam, you'll see that we have all of the content from Unit 1 students as part of the exam materials. However, in Exam 2, we build from Unit 1. We don't just disregard what happened in Unit 1. It's still relevant in Unit 2 to help us understand more about students and learning. But here you can see that these are additional texts, additional supplemental material, and then the exam itself really is designed to cover the core pieces of these chapters, but also build in the core information from these chapters. And so in that respect, it's cumulative. And with that in mind, the point values also grow over the course of the semester. So for the first unit, your exam is worth 125 points, and then the second one is worth 175, the third one is worth 200. And that's because the demands on your knowledge increase over the course of time. And so perhaps in Exam 1, you're still learning how to approach. Hold on just one second, guys. Sorry about that, guys. I took care of that phone call. Nevertheless, where was I? So yes, the content builds over the course of the semester and within. And so even the assignments actually draw connections to previous units. And in that way, it's designed not to be overly demanding so that you have to remember everything, because you always have your materials ready at hand. When you're doing an assignment, have at it. Look at those materials. When you are completing an exam, I wholly encourage you to use any kind of resources that you have, be them PowerPoints, notes, the videos themselves, your textbook, whatever it is that you feel is helpful in order to answer the questions. It's not one of those things where, because it's an online class, we're allowed so much flexibility in your ability to seek out those resources and use them underneath examination periods. I encourage that. Okay, beyond that, again, we've got kind of this structure, and we'll talk more about each individual assessment specifically as the units go on. Okay, so now if you clicked on this, it's going to download the document for you, but I'm going to open up here, and hopefully this is easy enough to see. One of the things that is really important that you kind of, move that out of the way. Oh, technology. Well, just ignore that. That says educational psychology behind it. One of my favorite sayings is, "Blessed are the flexible, for they will never be bent out of shape." So this is a perfect example. When I can't move that little picture, we'll just be flexible. Know that there are words behind there. Nevertheless, this syllabus is what I try to include in a way to make it really transparent for you about how it is that it's best you can, be most successful in this course. So the very first thing that you'll want to note is that I do have office hours because I teach both online and face-to-face classes. And so here, these office hours are 9:30 to 10:30 and 3:30 to 4:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I do use the Starfish system for making appointments, and I'm going to add information under the syllabus and scheduling about how you use Starfish if you want to make a physical appointment with me. But since this is an online class, I know that a lot of you aren't physically available, so I do have appointment times outside of those times if they don't work for you for some reason. The primary way that I'd like for you to contact me is via email, but I need to make sure that you're putting enough information in those emails that it doesn't get confused with other emails. I get like 20 plus emails every single day, and I don't want to lose your email, so I need for you to do some things in order to make sure that the email that you send to me goes to the right filter place. And so one of the things that if you email me and you email at dweatherford@astate.edu, it's really imperative that you put that you're a student in educational psychology. Again, I teach many different courses, and so sometimes it's hard for me to keep track of everyone unless you do this, and then it filters. I have a filter setting in my email so that it always goes to a specific place. If you don't have this information in the subject line, PSY 3703, and your full name, then what happens is that it may go into my junk email box. A-State has an interesting kind of automated system when it comes to that. Even if it comes from a student mail address, I've had many things go to junk, and I don't see it if it goes there. So make sure that you're following this minor thing so that I know you're asking a question of me and I can respond. I generally try to respond within 24 hours, and that is Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. I know that things are due on Sundays. I do that for you to give you the maximum amount of flexibility for the course, but know that I'm not going to be responding to information or solicitations for information, generally speaking, on Sundays. If you have a question, you'll need to ask that question and expect a response within a reasonable time within business hours, because it's not one of those things where even though something is due at 11:59 on Sunday, I'm honestly not waiting next to my email in the event that someone has some sort of technological problem. So this is where planning is incredibly important. And if you have some communications with me, definitely I want to be able to be of assistance to you, but you'll need to kind of meet the demands of Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 for those emails, and I'll do my absolute best to get back with you. Okay. If your email is including all the information that I said and it has sufficient information, I'll go ahead and reply, but again, if it's not, it may go to my junk, or if it's an ill-formed question, like it doesn't give me enough information to help you, then that's not within the guidelines that I'm setting for our contact. Also, according to what I told you guys in the navigation video for Blackboard, anytime I send an announcement to the course, it goes to the entire class as an individual email. If you need to start a new thread, I'm going to suggest that you not just reply to that email unless it's having to do with something in that email. If you have something new that you want to ask about, then I need you to start a new thread so that way it doesn't collapse in the wrong area. So in lieu of responding back to one of my emails, if you're beginning a new conversation, just start a new email. And again, in an online setting, I'm sure this mostly goes without saying, but it's worth noting, is that professional language and format is expected of you. The only way that I have to kind of gauge our interactions, with the exception of a couple of videos, is your written work. So make sure that that written work is well formed, that you're asking me what you need, and that you're providing me with enough information to help you. So for instance, if you say, I can't get the quiz to work, I don't know what quiz you're talking about, I don't know what the problem is that you're experiencing, and so if you want my assistance, please make sure you provide me with enough information so that I can be helpful. Okay. I explained office hours before, but again, you're going to use that Starfish appointment system, and there'll be a handout under the syllabus and schedule. Also, if you really want to, and if you want to see me and it is better for you to have a conversation with me versus an email exchange, I actually do office hours through video as well. I use Google Hangouts, I use FaceTime, I use Skype. So if you want to have a video chat with me, those are the 3 ways that I do it, and I would love and welcome the opportunity to do that with you if that's what you prefer. Okay. We already went over the 3 required texts, but here they are again, full with their ISBN numbers. Every syllabus has these program goals, and this is a course that is part of the Bachelor of Science in Psychology here at Arkansas State University. And so it does meet a program level outcome that we have set as successful students will be able to apply psychological knowledge. And so in that respect, this is one of the things that our course is designed to meet. All right. How will you earn your grade? I know that that's probably one of the most important questions in your mind beyond what are the textbooks and how do I get in contact with you? How are you going to earn your grades? Well, the first thing you're going to do is the video discussion board, and there are 2 of these. And again, these are just a way for me to increase the level of engagement in an otherwise kind of disconnected online course. I want to see you, I want to hear you, I want you to hear me, and so those things are kind of important to me. They're not worth a grand amount of points, but it's just enough for me to have something tangible so that I can connect a face and some dynamic information with your name. I want to get to know you a little bit better. The second is your quizzes, and so every week you're going to have some kind of assessment, and most of those assessments come from quizzes. Now, quizzes are comprised of multiple sections, and again, that's in the content philosophy video, but briefly, you're going to answer a couple of multiple choice questions, and you're going to evaluate your own performance in terms of where you think your strengths are within this given chapter, where perhaps your weaknesses might be, and what you're going to do about them. And then there's also a connect section. So I really want you to think every single chapter and every single week about, well, how is this information useful? Why would I learn this information? How can I make my life better, my future career better, my schooling better? What are the ways that I can take this idea and apply it to the real world or apply it to a number of different contexts? All right. Then you also have every unit, you have an assignment. And so the examples and descriptions are really clearly laid out, or at least I hope they're clearly laid out in each unit itself, but just the goal of these assignments is the same kind of thing, where you'll have a number of terms, you'll have to define them in your own words, connect them to each other, and talk about how they're connected to the supplemental texts. So those unit assignments are really where those supplemental texts come in very strongly. And then you'll have exams. Again, as I described earlier, those exams grow in value because the information that's being expected that you retain is also going to grow. But as always, I want to make sure you know it's fully expected and encouraged that you use those resources. Not necessarily as a crutch per se. I really do encourage that you understand something before you try to take a test of your knowledge on it. But people forget. I know it's understandable. You can't remember every bit of information. So you have your textbook there for you to use as you would like. This is an online course. Oh, before I go on, I do want to note something. The course itself is out of 1,000 points, but know that an 850 or above is considered an A. So in the traditional scale, 850 is actually 85%, which would otherwise be considered a B in most classes. But because of the nature of this course, and because I think that mastering 85% of the content really does demonstrate A-level work, know that 850 is the top number, or the lowest number for an A, 750 for a B, 650. So really take the traditional 90%, 80%, 70% and shift it down by 5%. And then that means that there's a huge chunk that will still be considered an A-level work. Or A-level work, and was not a necessary article adjective there. Okay, academic integrity. In any class, and perhaps in online classes most specifically, there are opportunities for academic misconduct. And I trust, and I'm just going to operate on the assumption that you guys are all adults, you're here to learn, you're here to demonstrate that understanding, you're here to do well in whatever the assessments are that I put forth for this course. And so know that I'm expecting that you will definitely operate with integrity. However, Arkansas State University does have sanctions and does have rules associated with what constitutes academic misconduct. Specifically, what I want to encourage you to do is make sure that everything that you do in this course is in your own words. There will be multiple opportunities for you to write your thoughts out. And if your thoughts are someone else's thoughts and someone else's words, then I have no real tangible evidence to demonstrate that you understand. So for instance, if you find something in your textbook and you list it out word for word as it's described by the author, all I know is that you know where to find that piece of information. I don't know that you understand that piece of information. So it's really important to me that everything you do is captured in your own writing. And what that's probably going to take is that whenever there's an open response section, that you not look directly at your book during those sections. Because it's hard when information is so readily available in your mind as a function of having just read it, to try to capture that same idea in your own words. It's really, really difficult. And so I'm going to, again, argue for spacing your time out so that you're not looking at your book directly during those short answer periods. Otherwise, it is going to be the author's words, and I'm not going to know if you understand it. I'm just going to know that you knew where to find it. And so know that I'm expecting that everything you write is in your own words. I will be checking that everything you write is in your own words, because sometimes, we slip up, we make mistakes. Safe Assign is embedded within all of the written work that you have so that it's clear to me if you're writing just what the author says, which is typically what it is. And then sometimes there is an opportunity for students to get together and do assignments together. And again, those things will not go unnoticed. There are plenty of opportunities for me to see that. So I'm just going to discourage that behavior in all forms. Make sure everything you do is independent. Otherwise, there are sanctions. The first sanction is that if I find any lifted information, so word for word from an internet source, from your book, from another person, doesn't really matter, what your intent was, you'll get a 0 for that assignment. And if it happens again, you'll get a 0 for the course. But again, I'm not expecting that this is going to happen. It's just something that's embedded within all of my syllabi so that you know that there are rules associated with that. Okay, inclement weather. Spring semester is notorious for some sort of inclement weather to come in and try to disrupt our lives. It's happened many, many, many years, and I don't doubt that it's going to happen again this semester. If it does, blessed are the flexible, they'll never be bent out of shape. And so here, if something happens and campus closes, even though it's an online course, if campus is officially closed, I will not make expectations that you're going to turn in assignments if they're due on that day. But everything's due on Sunday, so it's one of those things where it's unlikely that campus will be officially closed over the weekend. However, I'm not in a position to be super rigid about that. I will be flexible with you if something happens, and if your internet doesn't work, it's going to be really hard for you to do an online class or take an online test. But know that you have the whole week to do it. So if you plan out your time effectively, then it should be an instance where the very next day that the university is open, I'll extend the deadline period to that day, and you'll need to make sure that you complete your assessments by that day. One thing that is kind of important to note, and I haven't to this point, is that everything is up and ready to go now. Nothing stops you from doing as many of the things as early as you would like, with the exceptions of the exams. Those are only available during specific periods of time. But everything else you can do as you please. And so the ability to work ahead might protect you in the event that inclement weather happens. Okay. Technology. So as I said earlier in the walkthrough video for the navigation of Blackboard, there are a number of different places that you can go if you have some challenges with technology. The first is the Learning Sciences Center in the event that you want help. They have stuff for nearly every 1000 and 2000 level Gen Ed course, but there's also tutoring for not just Blackboard, but for the course content itself for this course if you request it. So the number to call is 870-972-3451. Here are their hours of operation. The general help or Blackboard help is also listed here, and again, it should be the same kind of resource as the help resources link underneath Blackboard. But if you have any technical issues, if you're being kicked out of Blackboard, if you can't see a video, I cannot impress upon you enough that I'm not in charge of any kind of technological component of the course as it pertains to how your computer works with Blackboard. There are certain things like cookies and browser settings that I simply cannot help you with. And it's not that I don't want to, it's just that I can't. And so under those conditions, it's really, really important that you test out things in advance so that you're not in a position where it's Sunday night and you can't get a hold of anyone and you can't access what you need to access in order to meet the demands of the course. I do make expectations that anytime you experience a technological challenge that you have contacted Blackboard help, you have generated a ticket, and they have given you a course of action that you can pursue. They need to know when things don't work correctly, and so that's the first thing that you would do. Otherwise, I'm going to consider it not an excused reason for you to have not met the deadlines. Okay, accommodations. There are several different ways that if you are differently abled that you can still meet the demands of the course. With this online environment, technology can be an incredible resource for you. There are embedded links with integrity for you to have captions. Now those captions aren't perfect, but they are certainly there. So if you need assistance with those communications, that is one way for those videos for you to have that. Additionally, if there are any accommodations that you need, additional time, additional accommodations for your own needs, please do let me know. I'm here to help you. And disability services here can also work with us so that we make sure that we meet your needs. And luckily for us, we don't have to worry about physical access, but there are certain things that may come up as a function of the course. Just be communicative and we'll work together. This is an online learning community, and so it does afford different opportunities for written communications with each other and with me. And so I want to make sure that as scholars in an online learning community, we all kind of follow the same tenets of civility and student conduct. So here are the 4 kind of guiding principles that should really collectively guide all of your interactions with me and each other. Obviously, civility is really important. Ethical behavior is really important. Morality and respect. I want to encourage you to take time to read this section, especially if this is the first time you've been in an online community. The same kind of rules apply in a face-to-face community. They're just exemplified in a little bit of a different way here. But this is definitely something I expect of you. And again, you're adults. I trust that you're going to do all of these things swimmingly. In the event that there's some violations of conduct within an online community, you will hear from me and we'll probably have to have a conversation about it, but I don't make an expectation that's going to happen because I know you're all adults. Okay, so this is the course schedule. It looks exactly the same as the one I went over in Blackboard, but here it is again. Know that there is a caveat here. Just like inclement weather might change our accessibility to course information, so too might due dates change or other types of things change. And if that were to happen, I'll definitely let you guys know. I'll change this and I'll update this accordingly. All right, that's all I have for the syllabus. If you have any questions, definitely please follow the contact guidelines here in terms of your email, but let me know if you need anything beyond what I've covered in this video.